Haunted by cursed secrets. 10 night shift rules revealed in a Sinister Wyoming. Jenna stepped out of her truck, the dim light of dusk casting elongated shadows over the Pine Hollow Mining Company. A chill crawled up her spine. This place felt heavy, its history a murky well of whispered secrets that clung to the air like coal dust. Her heart raced as she hugged her little girl, Lucy. Goodbye. They were here for a fresh start, but a gnawing unease tugged at her gut. She could almost hear the warning shouts of ghosts trying to escape their bloody past. As she entered the mine, the sounds of machinery hummed a deceptive lullaby. The crew was rough-hewn and grizzled, sharing half-hearted jokes that floated in the stale air, a masking tape over their palpable fear. Each chuckle carried a weight, a resignation to the grim history that loomed. It was Marcus, her friendly neighbor, who took it upon himself to share the 10-night shift rules, though his kind eyes flashed with a darkness as he voiced them. Respect the mines, Jenna, he warned, or you'll live to regret it. With the sun setting outside, an oppressive shadow descended, turning the atmosphere electric. Echoes and uneasy creaks emerged from the bowels of the mine, swirling with Jenna's anxiety. Cold sweat dripped down her back as she spotted fleeting shapes cocktailing in the dark, just out of reach of their headlamps. The hairs on her arms prickled, and the shadows seemed to whisper, promising something sinister. In the lunchroom, an old radio crackled to life, spilling haunting melodies infused with cries for help. Tossing it aside, Jenna picked at her nerves, unwilling to embrace the paranoia striking her like a physical presence. Each night unfolded with more eerie sounds. Whispers in rusted corners and the haunting melody from the radio grew louder, intertwining with coal dust and dread. Marcus's warnings echoed in her mind, turning vague folklore into chilling reality. One night, a miner vanished without a trace, and the cold grip of fear wrapped tighter around Jenna's chest. She couldn't shake the sense that the darkness clung to her like a specter. Burrowing deeper into her unease, Jenna discovered details on the community's missing family members, a subterranean twist connecting her with the mine, blood and veins of cursed secrets pulsing through her very being. The whispers of a blood-drenched legacy beckoned. But could she really face the truth buried beneath rock and despair? Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Eager for answers, she confronted Marcus again. But the truth clawed at her like steel on skin as he unraveled the horrifying tapestry that bound the miners to the land. The laughter and sorrow of the past found her in the shadows, tugging at her sanity. Each shift turned into a harrowing gamble, shadows lurking deeper than ever. As she climbed through the narrow tunnels, hands trembling and heart pounding, the unearthly cries returned. Would she be the next to be claimed by Pine Hollow's cursed heart? What horrors awaited at the end of the tunnel, and would she escape the flickering ghosts of her own bloodline unscathed? Jenna's breath hitched as she plunged deeper into the mine on her next shift. The air thickened, becoming a stifling cauldron of fear. Each step felt heavier, as if the earth beneath her grasped desperately at her ankles, trying to pull her down into its suffocating maw. She could almost hear the whispers again, frantic and pleading, coiling around her thoughts like serpents. Stay close to the others, Marcus had said during a brief moment of camaraderie, but it felt like a warning more than advice. With every flicker of her headlamp, shadows laughed menacingly back at her. She pushed through, forcing herself to focus on the tasks at hand. The faint sounds of her co-workers echoed ahead, but they seemed to be moving farther away, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. Suddenly, a bone-chilling scream pierced the subterranean silence. Jenna's heart raced. She stumbled, nearly dropping her lamp, the beam of light dancing wildly against the jagged walls. A few miners up ahead turned at the sound, their faces pale, eyes wide, betraying the facade of toughened grit. Whispers of "not again" floated through the air as they rushed toward the source, leaving Jenna standing like a deer caught in headlights. "Wait, don't go," she called, but her voice fell into the darkness without a trace. She could feel the lingering shadows crawling closer, tempting her with their siren song of despair. The chilling scream echoed again, unraveling her resolve. Summoning her courage, Jenna followed them, her steps hesitant. She could almost sense the weight of eyes watching her from out of the darkness, judging her, waiting. It was unnerving, the instinctive reaction of her mind to turn back, to flee, to let the secrets remain buried. But what knowledge could be worth this kind of suffering? As they rounded a corner, Jenna caught a glimpse of her coworkers gathered around a dark void, a shaft extending deeper into the earth. It looked like it had never been opened before, an unnatural angle that sent a shiver racing down her spine. A coarse rope hung down its edge, swinging slightly, as if someone had just ascended from the abyss. "What happened?" Jenna whispered, forcing her way to the front. The miners exchanged worried looks, as if each of them harbored a deeply buried fear, a collective dread they knew but never spoke of. "Frank went down," one of them muttered, shaking his head. "He didn't come back. We thought he was just messing around." But he shuddered, his voice trailing off into an uneasy silence. Jenna's breath quickened. "Is he down there?" she asked, horror washing over her. The shadows seemed thicker now, pulsating with a life of their own. The radio crackled through the gloom, suddenly awakening the faintest strains of a familiar, eerie tune, merging with Frank's fading voice echoing in her mind. Before anyone could answer her, another miner stepped forward, his expression resolute. "We have to go get him," he said, and despite the tremor in his voice, a spark of determination flickered in his eyes. Jenna felt the weight of their decision settle in her gut like lead. Rescuing Frank meant stepping into darkness itself, confronting the dread that clung to the mine's every corner. But did she have what it took to face the curse that enveloped Pine Hollow? As they prepared to descend, Jenna hesitated. What if the shadows weren't just lurking? What if they were waiting for her? "Ready?" the miner asked, and Jenna gripped her lantern tighter. Something was stirring down there, something ancient and hungry. Could she unearth the truth before it consumed them all? With a single nod, the group took their first step into the void, the coldness wrapping around them like a shroud. Little did Jenna know, the cursed secrets of Pine Hollow had already begun to awaken. The darkness roared around them as Jenna and her fellow miners descended into the unknown. Each step echoed unsettlingly, amplifying her heartbeat, thrumming in rhythm with the foreboding of the mine. The air grew colder, a palpable, suffocating weight that pressed against their skin like icy fingers. "Just a quick check for Frank and we'll be out," someone whispered, though his voice wavered. It felt like a lie meant to soothe them, and Jenna could feel the unease radiating from the group like a fever. Jenna shined her light across the damp stone walls, catching glimpses of algae crawling in foul patches. Each flicker of the beam sent shadows skittering away, forming grotesque shapes that danced beyond her line of sight. What monster lurked just beyond the light's reach? She could feel it, a presence watching, lurking, breathing. "Frank!" someone shouted, urgency lacing his tone. The echo cast strange vibrations around them, seemingly taunting their desperation. Their voices, once a source of comfort, now bounced off the walls, muffled and distorted, as if the mine absorbed every sound, every hope. "Shoo!" Jenna hushed, the hairs on her neck standing tall. Silence fell heavily after that. Even the darkness seemed to hold its breath. And then a low growl echoed from further down the shaft. The miners froze, tension coiling. It wasn't just the shadows, something was alive down here. "Did you hear that?" Jenna breathed. She flicked her light toward the source, but only silence and shadow met her gaze. Too still, too empty, it felt wrong. "Let us keep moving," a woman urged, forcing herself forward, though Jenna could see the tremor in her hands. Another fork in the path yawned ahead, black and cavernous, hiding unfathomable secrets beneath jagged rock. As they approached, the faint tune from the radio crackled ominously again, a ghostly melody that intertwined with the growl. It felt like a memory clawing its way to the surface, lost souls calling. Frank? Jenna's voice trembled, faint and small against the oppressive silence. She stepped closer, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might fracture her ribs. The shadows twisted, deepening as if inviting her to join them. They passed a decades-old mining cart, rusted but oddly intact, the cries of machinery long since silenced. Something caught Jenna's eye, a flash of red fabric billowed from the cart's side. Her stomach lurched. It was a piece of Frank's jacket. It fluttered like a flag of warning, urging her to turn back. "Jenna!" A voice broke her daze. One of the miners had stepped forward, eyes locked onto something behind her. "What is it?" she whispered, fear threatening to choke her. "Something there," he pointed, and Jenna turned, her breath hitching as the shadows twisted and surged around them, billowing with a life of their own, wrapping around the miners like a shroud. "Get back!" Another voice yelled, panic slicing through the air. But Jenna was frozen, a tight knot of dread forming in her chest. Cold terror curled in her gut. With a surge of adrenaline, the group scrambled to retreat, but chains clanked, pulling tight from the depths of the tunnel. They were trapped, ears strained for a sound, anything to break the foreboding stillness. "Frank!" Jenna screamed, desperately clawing at the darkness. But her voice was swallowed, leaving only fear behind. Then, from the abyss, a low, throaty chuckle rumbled like distant thunder, and the shadows congealed, forming a face. A face not of flesh and bone, but of the weighted darkness itself. Jenna's mind raced. They were not alone. Something had been waiting, but for what? As horror sunk deeper, enveloping them like the very shadows of Pine Hollow, the rhythmic growl grew louder. Jenna's light flickered, threatening to extinguish what would it reveal when it finally died? In that fractured moment, Jenna realized the mine had just awakened. The oppressive darkness felt thicker now, almost sentient. Jenna's heart beat faster as the distorted laughter reverberated through the narrow tunnel, shaking her to her core. It was as if the mine itself was mocking them, carrying their fears and turning them against each other. "Stay together!" someone shouted, though the frantic whisper quaked like a leaf on a stormy night. The miners pressed closer, the flickering beam of Jenna's flashlight creating erratic patterns of light and dark that danced around them, revealing nothing but uncertainty. "Jenna!" She heard a voice call, but it was indistinct, drowned out by the rising sound of metal grinding against metal. The chains that bound the mine began to rattle, pulling tighter, pushing them forward towards the growl. It felt alive, throbbing with intent, hungry for their panic. "Keep moving," Jenna urged, pushing against the press of bodies around her. But the darkness loomed, stretching away in a maze of dread, ensnaring their senses. Each backward glance revealed more shadows twisted in unnatural shapes, faces formed from the darkened void. Suddenly, the radio crackled fiercely, the haunting tune giving way to static laced with anguished cries. "Help us!" A garbled voice erupted from the receiver, cutting through the terror like a knife. The miners froze in place, eyes wide, breaths held. It was Frank's voice. "Frank!" Jenna screamed again, desperation spilling forth. "Where are you?" A thudding sound resonated from further in, heavy and deliberate. Something was approaching. Jenna felt her skin prune under the chill, goosebumps marching across her arms. Whatever had been lurking in the depths had caught their scent. "Maybe he is hurt. We have to help him," the woman with the tremor pleaded. But Jenna knew better. The mine had a cruel way of twisting intentions into nightmares. "No, we need to escape. Now," Jenna insisted, forcing her feet to back away, tugging at the other miners, trying to break the spell the darkness had woven around them. The growl shifted into a guttural roar that pierced the depths of the mine, sending icy shivers down their spines. It was more animal than human, primal, filled with rage. "Get back!" someone shouted, and in the chaos, self-preservation ignited. Retreat turned into a frantic scramble, everyone pushing toward the surface where flickering beams of light turned the darkness back into something familiar. The radio screeched again, this time intertwining with the growl and cracking open the echo of laughter like thunder. "It won T, let us go," the voice trailed off, dire and pleading, drawing from the shadows as if the mine claimed another soul. "No, we can't let it take us," a man gasped, his panic contagious as he stumbled backward, dragging his feet in desperation. Then, everything shifted. The air grew warmer for an instant, a fleeting moment steeped in false hope, and Jenna spotted another glimmer of red fabric caught in the rough edge of a stone. "Look," she pointed, desperation clawing for clarity, but the group had turned back, eyes locked on the approaching monstrosity. Shapes began to emerge from the darkness, twisted figures that slithered like smoke with mouths shaped into wicked smiles. "Run! Now!" Jenna screamed, a command clashing with her mounting terror. They tore down the tunnel, legs sprinting in frantic haste, heartbeats reverberating in unison as their cries echoed endlessly behind them. But the laughter followed, sharp and hungry, echoing as they dashed, urging them to turn around. And just when they thought they'd escaped, the ground shuddered beneath them, cracking open like the mouth of some great, ravenous beast. Jenna stumbled and fell, the light winking out, plunging her into chilling darkness. She could feel the breath of the mine on her neck, cold, possessive. Silence swallowed her screams as panic tightened around her chest like a vice. In that final instant, she realized they were only beginning to grasp the mine's true nature. Something unearthly awaited them, and it was far more than just a rescue mission. As the shadows closed in, she heard the faint echo of laughter once more, a cruel reminder that even in darkness, some things were always watching. What would they be willing to sacrifice to survive? Jenna's breath came in ragged gasps as darkness enveloped her, a suffocating fabric that weighed down her limbs and stifled her cries. Her heart raced, pounding against her ribcage like a frantic, caged animal. The laughter met her ears again, twisted and mocking, a sound that rolled over her like icy water. She tried to scramble to her feet, but the floor shifted beneath her, gravel and stone shifting ominously, creating a barrier between her and the others. "Guys, please," she called, her voice rasping through the shadows. All around her, the murmurs of panic faded, replaced by the persistent growl that reverberated through the rock. The air grew thick, almost metallic, clinging to her skin, leaving her slick with sweat and dread. Then, a crushing silence descended, so quiet it made her ears ring. She could only hear her own breath and the distant echoes of her terrified friends. Were they far away, stuck? Or worse, had they abandoned her to whatever lurked in this cursed abyss? Jenna dared to call out again, her voice wavering, "Can anyone hear me?" The only response was silence, thick as the darkness surrounding her. She felt a prickling sensation on the back of her neck, the hairs rising as if cold fingers brushed her skin. Suddenly, the flashlight flickered back to life, illuminating a small radius around her. The beam wavered, almost feeling alive, pulsing as if it shared her fear. In the faint glow, she caught sight of something. An outline emerged, a shadowy figure standing just beyond the reach of her light, watching her with cold, empty eyes. "Jenna," the voice trickled out, familiar yet distorted, echoing through the dark. "Help us." It was Frank, but the way he spoke felt off, hollow. The jerky motion of his hand beckoned her forward, but there was something unsettling about the angle of his shoulders, something broken in his stance. "This way," he whispered, though it sounded like a growl in her ears. "Frank," she yelled, taking a step toward him, but her instincts halted her. Something was wrong. Was it really him, or merely a cruel reflection of the mind's twisted design? She hesitated, moments stretched out, thick with dread. The growling noise grew louder and closer, echoing like thunderous drumbeats, drowning out Frank's voice. The shadows slithered around him, extending like tendrils, beckoning her with promises of escape that was not escape. Screams erupted somewhere in the distance, piercing through the noise. It was followed by a monstrous roar that sent shockwaves through Jenna's body. She stumbled backward, the flashlight flickering again, swinging wildly, illuminating the terrifying, writhing darkness that seemed to breathe with greed. "Jenna, run!" The cry was shrill and panicked, a sound that sent chills racing down her spine. It wasn't T. Frank, it was someone else, someone trapped just as she was. And they were terrified, perhaps already claimed by the darkness. Jenna turned on her heel and sprinted, feet pounding against the rocky ground, heedless of where she ran. The oppressive darkness clawed at her heels, threatening to pull her down into its endless maw. Her mind screamed with each heavy footfall. She just had to find her way back to them, back to the light. The laughter rang out again, this time layered with voices, drowned in a cacophony of despair. "It's coming for you." The ground shook violently, and she nearly fell to her knees. Hallways branched off in every direction, shadows shifting in the corners of her vision, enticing her to choose one path over another. "Please, I can't be alone." The mind's breath responded, warm and rancid against her skin, a cruel reminder of the thing that lurked just beyond her vision. And then, amidst the chaos, something glimmered in the dark, a faint beacon of red fabric, catching her eye once more. It was the same cloth from before. Had it come for her again? Her heart raced wildly, pulling her toward it instinctively as if drawn by an unbreakable force. Desperation and curiosity surged in her chest, battling for control. The fabric was a clue, a promise, or maybe even a trap. As she made her choice, she felt the darkness swirl behind her, an unearthly presence that reached forward, clawing through the shadows, whispering her name. What awaited Jenna at the end of the fabric's tether? And would she be ready to face the truth hidden in the mind's suffocating sorrow? The fabric felt cool to her fingertips as Jenna finally reached for it. She tugged, feeling the weight of something heavy cling to the thread. The darkness thickened around her, wrapping tighter, almost as if it were sentient, aware of her every move. Fear gnawed at her insides, coiling like a snake ready to strike. What if this was a mistake? Steeling herself, she pulled harder. The red cloth surrendered its secrets, revealing a faded flashlight, its once bright beacon dulled to a ghostly shimmer. She flipped the switch, and for a moment, hope surged through her veins. Light burst into life, slicing through the shadows, illuminating the space around her. But as the light spilled forth, the laughter grew louder. It twisted through the mine, mocking her newfound courage. The shadows recoiled, almost as if offended by the intrusion. Jenna's heart sank as she turned to face the dark once more. "Why are you here?" A low voice slithered through the air, making her blood run cold. "Who are you?" she gasped, clasping the flashlight tighter, as if it were a weapon against the encroaching darkness. "They come for what's theirs." The voice echoed, dripping with malice, reverberating against the rock walls. "Are you prepared for the cost?" Jenna's grip faltered as the creeping fog of dread consumed her thoughts. What did it mean? She could feel the pressure building around her, the weight of eyes watching, waiting. Could she really trust what she was seeing? The flashlight flickered again, fighting against a presence that churned beyond her control. In the swirling shadows, she glimpsed reflections, faces filled with terror, mouths muffled by the darkness. Each one was frozen in fear, their eyes wide and pleading, as if they had become part of the mine itself. They reached out, grasping at her, pulling her closer. She stumbled backward, and the beam of her flashlight caught a different sight, an ancient mural on the wall, grotesque and haunting. It told a tale, a story of despair buried deep. Figures lost in the mine, their souls tethered to this place, tormented by something they had unleashed. A chill crawled through her body, mingling with the suffocating heat of panic. A roar echoed from somewhere further into the darkness, filling Jenna's ears with dread. It shook the very ground beneath her feet, an unnatural force twisting her insides. Instinct screamed at her to flee, but her feet felt rooted to the spot. What if she ran into the very thing she had been trying to escape? The chilling laughter mocked her once more, swirling around like a storm. "You'll never leave." In that moment, Jenna made a choice. Keeping the flashlight's beam steady, she wove through the stone pathways, leaving behind the whispers and shadows that taunted her. Each step was a battle. The darkness gnawed at her heels with a ferocity born of twisted existence. Suddenly, she noticed a faint glow emanating from one of the passages, a soft, inviting light, the kind of light that promised salvation. Could it be one of her friends? Jenna pressed forward with renewed determination, praying the warmth emanating from that opening was real and not another trick of the mind. But as she drew closer, the glow pulsated, almost like a heartbeat. It beckoned her, drawing her deeper into its embrace. And as she crossed the threshold into that light, her heart sank. The view that lay before her shattered her hope. "Welcome back," the familiar voice broke the air, soft and sweet, yet laced with a sinister edge. The figure before her should have been comforting. Yet Jenna felt the overwhelming urge to run. It was Frank, but his eyes were hollow, reflecting despair and emptiness that chilled her to the bone. "Help us," he said again, and this time it was a demand drenched in grief. Was he really there, or had she stepped into an illusion? The mind hummed around her, teasing her sanity. And as the laughter returned, layered with sorrowful cries, Jenna faced her decision. Would she step deeper into the light, or would she return to the shadows, unraveling the secret of the haunted walls? Whatever lay ahead promised an answer, but at what price? Would Jenna discover the truth hidden in the mind's cursed depths, or would she become just another echo in the void? As she stood at the precipice of fate, a shiver coursed through her. Something ancient stirred below. The mind was awakening yet again. Jenna felt her heart crash against her ribcage, each thud echoing in the haunted silence that surrounded them. The shadows twisted, closing in, but Frank stood like a specter, subtly shifting in and out of focus. Her instincts screamed at her to run, but she could hardly move, frozen by the whirlwind of confusion. "Frank," she whispered, desperation lacing her voice. You're alive? Alive?" he echoed, his smile stretched in a way that didn't reach his eyes. "This place doesn't kill, Jenna. It feeds." The walls breathed, a slow, deep inhale that made the ground tremble. The faces she saw at the edges of her mind, those tormented souls flared to life, their cries of anguish intertwining with the mind's eerie lullaby. With a trembling breath, Jenna took a step back. "What happened to you?" But Frank only tilted his head, as if considering her question with cold detachment. "This mine, it holds what we lost and what we sacrificed. Do you want to know what that cost was?" His voice dropped, becoming a low whisper that sent icy tendrils creeping up her spine. The glowing light pulsed again, casting grotesque shadows against the walls. Felt too appealing. Her gut twisted. It was a warning she chose to ignore. "We can find the way out together. I refuse to become a part of this place." "Together?" Frank's laugh echoed like shattering glass. "You think you have a choice?" Suddenly, darkness surged forth, swallowing the light. Jenna staggered back, the flashlight flickering as if sensing her fear. The laughter morphed into something more sinister. Phantoms blended with Frank, their faces emerging and fading, those tortured expressions begging for release. "Walk with me, Jenna," he urged, stepping forward as the shadows seemed to pull him deeper into their embrace. "You must understand the truth." "No," she shouted, rallying against the grip of despair. "I want to join you." Jenna turned, scrambling down the passage, the words burning in her throat like bile. With the flashlight flailing beside her, she sprinted past the walls adorned with the remnants of ancient agony. The mind's breaths quickened, and a roar reverberated, sounding off the rock like an angry beast. To escape, she had to navigate the labyrinth of sorrow and secrets, dodging memories that clawed at her mind. A fork appeared, two paths stretching before her. One shimmered faintly, a promise of escape. The other was dark, pulling her in with whispers that danced upon her skin. "Jenna!" It was Frank again, the voice seeping into her mind like poison. "Join us. We can help you see." She hesitated, the lure of the voice wrapping around her like a noose. But the faces clawing at her memory surged back, shadows of those who never left. "Not like this," she shouted to the shadows. But the laughter returned, rising in a cacophony that engulfed her heart. In that moment, Jenna understood. The longer she hesitated, the more entwined her fate would become with the mine. Panic fueled her feet, sending her into the right passage. As she stumbled ahead, the flashlight suddenly dimmed. Jenna cursed under her breath, quickening her pace. The darkness pressed around her, heavy and suffocating, each breath becoming a labor. There, looming ahead, a dark shape shifted in the shadows, blocking her path. A hulking figure, formless yet grotesquely familiar, emerged with spiteful intent. Jenna's stomach dropped as she realized what it was, an amalgamation of all the souls trapped within the mine, their despair merging into one, pushing her further into horror. No, this can't be happening. She felt the walls closing in, whispering her name with malice. She had crossed a line, awakened something deep in the mine, something it was never meant to reveal. Jenna's heart raced with the understanding that whatever path she had chosen was leading her into an abyss, one twisted with anger and betrayal. And it was then she felt the mine's pulse quicken beneath her feet. "Help us," the shadowy mass rasped, pulling her closer with a surge of battle-born determination. She sprang forward into a side passage, ignoring the terror growing behind her. But was it too late? As screams echoed around her, Jenna could only hope that escape lay ahead, not realizing the mine had other plans, that time was the haunting curse she could never outrun. But the unknown loomed, promising more horrors as the mine twisted around her. What if the very walls now conspired against her? Would she find her friends or become the next victim among the whispers of despair? Jenna surged forward, adrenaline powering her movements. But the darkness intertwined with her limbs as if trying to pull her back. A deep growl reverberated through the air, feeding off the terror coursing through her veins. She had to keep moving. Fear clawed at her throat, tightening like a noose. There was no time for hesitation. Every second counted. As she stumbled further into the side passage, she felt the temperature drop. Her breath came out in rapid puffs, clouds of panic swirling about her. The earth beneath her vibrated, thrumming in a rhythm that matched her racing heart. "Jenna," Frank's voice echoed, filled with desperate hunger. "You can't run from your fate. We will find you." The sound seemed to bend and twist, surrounded by rustling whispers. Faces flickered in and out of her mind, lost, broken souls clinging to the darkness, waiting for someone to join them. The weight of desperation pressed heavily on her, and she stumbled again, the flashlight flickering in her grasp. A dying star in a vast void. She reached a chamber, the walls glistening with moisture and despair. Jagged rock fangs jutted down from above, giving the space a claustrophobic feel. Jenna's instincts screamed to turn around, but she pushed through, stepping over the jutting stones that seemed to reach for her. The promise of escape dimmed against the backdrop of encroaching gloom. Suddenly, a flash of light caught her eye. An old mining cart, rusted and forgotten, sat abandoned in the corner. Her heart leaped. Could it be a way out? A desperate hope surged through her. She sprinted toward it, visions of freedom swirling in her mind. But as she drew closer, shadows peeled away from the walls like hungry creatures, feeding on her hope. She reached the cart, scrambling to pull it forward. As she tugged, she felt something cold against her skin, a grip that felt both familiar and foreign. "Join us, don't leave." The whispers grew louder, saturating her with urgency and dread. "No," she gasped, wrenching her arm free and glancing back. The phantoms had taken form, their skeletal fingers reaching out, begging for her to give in. They were once people. She could see it now. Their eyes were pools of grief and anger, trapped and desperate to escape. But the air thinned around her, suffocating her resolve. "You want me to join your misery?" Jenna spat, taking a step back, eyes wide, pulse racing. "I want tea." The shadows coiled tighter, pushing at her. She stumbled, but adrenaline shot through her again, propelling her back toward the darkness. Another path opened, its mouth wide and beckoning, a shadowy promise stretching into the void. Jenna hesitated, then plunged into it. The darkness enveloped her like a cloak, whispering secrets she didn't want to hear. "Why do you resist?" Frank's voice slithered through the shadows, sliding along her spine, as sinister as it was inviting. "You could join us, Jenna. You could be free." "No," she shouted, the sound echoing hollowly. What was freedom anymore? The mine's heartbeat thrummed in her ears, drowning out her thoughts. thrumming as if the walls themselves squirmed with life. The laughter returned haunting, maniacal, resonating deep within her core. The passage twisted, and Jenna felt herself lose direction, the earth beneath her shifting almost playfully. Everything became disjointed, her reality slashing at the seams. Stumbling, she cried out, desperation blooming in her chest. "Is anyone there?" she shouted. "Help me!" Silence answered, thick and smothering, and in that moment, the whispering shadows grew deafeningly still. Then, like thunder rumbling in the distance, the mine roared back to life. Shaking her bones, a flicker of light appeared ahead, a faint glow shimmering like a fragile thread in the oppressive dark. With renewed clarity, she made a break for it, clinging to the hope that maybe this time, it would lead her out. But the dark patience of the mine grew more evident, its grip tightening like a serpent preparing to strike. What awaited her beyond the light? Would it be salvation or another trap designed to claim her spirit? Jenna could only move forward, into the blinding shine that threatened to consume her whole. And as she stepped toward it, the ground quaked beneath her feet, causing her to falter. Was it the way out or a deeper descent into darkness? Jenna stumbled, her heart pounding in her ears as she fought to regain her balance. The light ahead shimmered like a beacon, but the tremors from the ground made it feel less like salvation and more like a siren call. She hesitated, fear creeping back in, replacing her fleeting hope with doubt. "Don't go toward the light," the whispers taunted, echoing off the damp walls. "You'll only find more pain." She shook her head, trying to clear the voices as if they could be brushed away like dust. With a shaky breath, she pressed forward, the glow intensifying as she closed the distance. The air hummed with an electric tension, and each step felt like a challenge against a force that wanted her to turn back. Suddenly, the ground shifted again, lurching under her feet. Each quake reverberated through her bones, and she fell to her knees. "No!" she cried, digging her hands into the dirt, clawing her way forward. It was as if the mine had a will of its own, trying to drag her back into its depths. She reached a threshold, a jagged archway framed the light, a threshold she realized she didn't want to cross. Just then, the glow flickered ominously. A scream broke loose in her throat, sharp and raw, as the reality of her surroundings began to sink in. Faces formed in the light, twisted with agony, their mouths moving in desperate pleas but producing no sound. The sight froze Jenna in place, her pulse quickening. Were these the spirits of those who came before her? The ones Frank had joined? The realization sent ice coursing through her veins. If they had not escaped, no one ever did. Join us, the soft chants melded into a haunting melody that pressed in around her. "No!" she screamed, pulling herself to her feet with a surge of panic. "I won't become one of you. I have to get out." Each heartbeat pressed against her chest as she looked back, the corridor behind her an endless abyss. The thought of retreat made her stomach churn. But the light also loomed like an unwelcome truth, a promise that seemed to tease her. With a burst of determination, Jenna lunged toward the archway, her body moving on instinct rather than reason. Yet at the very moment she crossed into the light, the screams erupted in a fervent crescendo. "Stop! You mustn't!" Jenna's world exploded in blinding brightness. For an instant, she felt weightless, as though she had left the very ground behind. But in an instant, reality crashed back, and darkness enveloped her once more. Gasping, she landed hard against cold stone. The light had vanished, and dread seeped back in, curling around her like a shadow. Silencing the voices became impossible, and the echo of laughter crawled beneath her skin. Eyes wide with terror, Jenna scanned her surroundings. She was alone in a new chamber, disoriented, the oppressive walls leaning in, suffocating her. Everything shimmered with a deceptive, ghostly glow, but no exit was in sight. Her throat felt tight, and a sense of profound isolation draped over her like a heavy blanket. What had she entered? The whispers resumed, morphed into a chilling warning. "This is your new life. Accept it." Panic struck, igniting every nerve. "I refuse," she shouted into the creeping darkness, her voice breaking against despair. And then silence came, the kind that tugged at her sanity. Her breath hung heavily in the stillness. Was this the end? Or could she fight her way out again? Finally, a rumble echoed in the depths of the chamber, a low growl that set her nerves alight. Something was coming. "Where are you?" she whispered, heart racing, eyes straining against the murky darkness. Heeding the tremor that rumbled closer, Jenna prepared herself to flee. But the question hung heavily in the air: would this entity seek to reclaim her, or offer her twisted salvation? With her heart drumming, she edged toward the source of the sound, feeling the weight of death on her shoulders. What lurked in the shadows of this cursed mine? Would it save her or seal her fate? Time was running out. Jenna braced against the cold stone wall, her heart hammering in rhythm with the ominous growl emanating from the shadows. The air thickened with tension, pressing against her skin, warning her of the terror lurking just out of sight. "Come on, Jenna, you've faced worse," she whispered to herself, but the lingering doubt gnawed at her. Was this the end? Or could she still fight her way back to the light? With a deep breath, she pushed forward, stepping hesitantly into the murk, her flashlight flickering erratically, creating a shallow pool of light. Voices crackled back to life, whispering haunted promises and bitter laments. "Join us, join us." The chilling chorus wrapped around her like a death shroud, pulling her back into their memory. "Not today." Jenna spat back fiercely, her voice a defiant shout that echoed off the walls. Then, faced with a choice, she pressed deeper into the shadows from which she came, the dark laughter and cries swirling behind her, insistent, urging her to give up. Her head spun with thoughts of Frank, of what he had become. His hollow promises of salvation turned to poison in her throat. She wouldn't join him, not when she could still fight. Suddenly, the air shifted. A new sound, a sharp scraping, like claws on stone. Jenna froze, holding her breath. The growl transformed into a roar, vibrating through her bones, raw anger mingling with despair. This beast of the mine was born from generations of pain and sorrow, and it was hungry for one more sacrifice. Rushing into the next cavern, she spotted the outline of old mining machinery, remnants of lives once lived. She stumbled upon the mine cart again, abandoned yet inviting. What lay within? Memories? Fear? Or a chance for escape? Before she could decide, the shadows pressed closer. The abomination spawned from the sufferings of so many wriggled into view, taking the shape of the souls it had consumed. Faces swirled, both familiar and foreign, their eyes pleading with her. There it stood, an amalgamation of darkness, rage, and desperation. It lunged, narrowing the space around her. "Join us," it screeched, a howling cacophony of lost hopes. "No," she yelled, instinctively backing away. But with each step, she felt the biting grasp of despair clawing at her heels. In a flash of clarity, Jenna turned, her resolve circling like fire in her veins. There was a way to combat this darkness. Grabbing the flashlight, she swung it toward the mass. "You thrive on fear, but I won't give in." She flicked the beam directly into the writhing darkness, pushing back against the malevolent force. The darkness recoiled as her resolve strengthened, shimmering against the faint light in a primal dance of shadows. The faces within the beast twisted and writhed with rage, but Jenna was not afraid. "You can't claim me," she shouted, the conviction ringing like a bell. "I am not yours to keep." Fueled by adrenaline, she sprinted again toward the mine cart. This time, she felt its presence shriek. The thrumming of its heart echoed with panic, for she was breaking its hold. Suddenly, she tore the cart free, feeling a near euphoric surge of power mingle with fear. As she pushed it forward, momentum built. The other miners were trapped in the edges of her vision, all the ones who had succumbed to despair, haunted by their choices. But she could save them. She had to. In that moment of unyielding energy, the growl of that horrific creature plunged into a furious roar, thrumming through her soul. Shadows surged around her, cascading like waves against rock. But Jenna fought against it, using all her strength to ignore their taunts. She swung again, the light shining bright through the horror, pushing back against the shadows. The cavern lit up, revealing twisted faces suspended in eternal anguish, reflecting what might become of her. But the realization ignited hope even in the darkest corners of her fear. "This is not my fate," she barked, grounding her spirit against their relentless whispers. With every ounce of belief, she plunged into the heart of the darkness. The shadows howled violently, shifting back as the light burned fierce, bright enough to pierce through the void. She glimpsed her friends stone-faced in their tortured reality. If she could reach them, if she could only stir their hope. "Follow the light," she cried, managing to break the barrier. And slowly, they began to emerge, spectral forms flickering as they answered her call. And a glorious surge. Jenna charged through the encroaching darkness, illuminating the path back to freedom. And the moment they felt the brightness, despair took flight, shrieking as it slipped further into the depths of the mine. Together, they fled through the opening, bursting into the fresh air drenched in sweat and freedom. The sun hung high over Pine Hollow, the light warm on their skin. It felt like rebirth, each face reflecting a shared understanding. The mine's darkness could claim their fear, but it could never take their hope. As they stood together, breathless and panting, Jenna turned to Frank. His eyes, once hollow and dark, were now full of a spark that glimmered with life. Understanding coursed between them, a silent promise. They had faced the abyss and emerged, etched with scars that reminded them of battles fought and won. Life would be different now, each vibration anchored by the strength they'd drawn from this harrowing experience. One by one, they shared their names, finally free. And with that, Jenna knew. The mine had awakened, but so too had they. Careful steps echoed as they left the haunting shadows behind, stepping firm into the sunlight, grasping the chance at a new beginning. But now, dear viewers, it's your turn to step forward. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on even darker tales waiting to wrap you in shadow. Smash that like button to send this story soaring through the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories. We want to hear how you felt about this chilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this gripping finale. Only true fans understand the importance of your support for the channel.